Hey class, today we're going to talk a little bit about rational exponents. And a rational exponent is much like a rational number when you have an exponent written as a ratio of one number over another. For instance, in this case we have a to the m divided by n power. And if you haven't seen this before, this might cause a little bit of confusion, but we'll work through it. A couple examples here and the confusion should disappear. So let's start off with simply a number that has 8 to the 1/3. What does this mean? Well, this is the same thing as the third root of 8. And just like we try and find pairs of numbers that are the same when we create our factor tree, we're going to do the same thing, only instead of finding for pairs, we're looking for groups of 3, or whatever number happens to be right here and right here. So let's do a little side work here. We have 8 and 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8, and then we factor that 4 again, 2 and 2. And so we see we have one group of 3 right here. So here clearly 8 equals 2 to the third power. So when we ask what is the answer here, the answer is simply 2. Okay, so that's good. And what about if we have not just a 1 on top, what if we have something a little bit more complicated? What if we have 8 to the 2/3 power? In this case, it ends up being the cube root of 8 squared. We already saw that the cube root of 8 is 2, so that becomes 2 squared. And then 2 squared, of course, is 4. Now that's not the only way we could do this. We could also write this equals cube root of 8 squared. Now whereas before we had the square on the outside, now we have it on the inside. You can do it either way, it's going to work out the same. And so 8 squared is 64, and so we put that here, the cube root of 64. And let's go ahead and create our factor tree. Okay, and so we say, all right, there's a 2 there, so that makes that 32. There's another 2, and so we have a 16, another 2, that's 8, and then 8, that's another 2, 4, 2, and 2. So let's circle them, and we are taking the cube root, so that's groups of 3. So here's one, and here's the other. So our answer ends up being 2 times 2, which is 4, as advertised.